Hi, I'm Cynthia Riley, and I'm here with Lynn Young, and she has graced us with her presence, and we have some questions to ask you, Lynn, about your experience here at First Congregational Church.
I'm delighted.
Yes. So the first thing I'd like to find out is, what are your first memories of our church?
That's so interesting because my very first memory was long before we were members, and I was here for a meeting of the National Organization of Women, and it happened to be held in the Founders Room. And in that space, I looked around and was like, wow. You know what I mean? Just that. Then in 1991, there was an ad on the radio, and it said, and we had just moved here from Minnesota, and it said, "Are you looking for a liberal Christian church with great children's programs and great music?" And I was like, well, yes, we are. And so the next week I visited the church, kind of a solo reconnaissance mission. And what I remember honestly is it was in the middle of summer, and there was a young man who had just come from La Forêt camp, and he gave the sermon, and he was 16 years old. And he was sitting up, it looked like he was sitting in the organ pipes. He was in some very non-traditional place, way up high. And I remember what he said. He said, "I don't know if I'm a Christian, but I know that I belong here."
Wow.
And I was like, And the next week, Ben and our kids came with me, and we all agreed we had found our church home.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So it was very, very fast. So when did you become a member then? Was that right away, or was that sometime later?
No, it was right away. Like, when you know a good thing, you step in. And so we joined right away. It was in 1991. In fact, I was in the new members class, and they said, "Oh, we're having a women's retreat next week." And I was like, "Great, sign me up." And I went to the women's retreat, and everyone was like, "You're so brave." And it's like, of course, we just, when you find it, you step in fully.
So you hit the ground running.
We've been about 30 years here.
Wow. Can you share any experiences or memories that you had with a committee or a team or small group that was especially meaningful to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. 30 years, there's lots of committees and teams. I dipped into music and sanctuary arts and education, and I guess the two that really rise to the top for me, one is back in 1999 was the beginning of the Our Whole Lives, Sexuality in Our Faith, National United Church of Christ movement. Really, it hadn't existed. And Sarah Weatherman, who was our Director of Christian Education at that time, asked me, since I was with Planned Parenthood, if I would like to be involved. And so I became a part of the national training cadre with Our Whole Lives. And then from that, the National UCC invited me to write some of the curriculum, which I did. And I continue to do that work for the National UCC. So that was like one, local committee ask that then became national.
Became a very big,
important, huge, beautiful, inclusive, affirming curriculum. Became a huge part of my life, which wouldn't have happened if I wasn't, here a member at this church.
Right, and your Planned Parenthood experience was just a beautiful entrance into that.
Like we all do, like bring everything that was and let it kind of bloom here. Right. The second memory that comes to mind is when I was asked to be the moderator of the church. I had been on the board, and or the council, we called it the board at the time, and then was asked to be the moderator. And that was, exactly. It was a very big gulp moment, and it wasn't even an instant yes, but as I was in the pews, it was like I realized this. I need to say yes. I need to leap and step in, and it was in a big transitional time in the life of our church when Jim White's ministry was long-term, fabulous ministry was coming to an end, and we needed to call a new minister, and we did call Benjamin Broadbent at that time. So it was a big transitional moment in the life of our church, and honestly, it stretched and grew me as I did that. So I'm so thankful for that, chance to serve and grow.
And how long were you on the board in that position? Was it a 3-year stint?
No,
at
back
that
then
time?
it was just 2 years.
Yeah, I bet
Yeah.
that was an amazing
It was
experience.
a big, challenging, stretching, beautiful experience. Yeah.
What do you remember, and who do you remember as good friends from the beginning?
Yeah. There are, honestly, Cynthia, too many. I mean, like literally too many. I was a new person in this town. I was looking for friends, and I actually found my true friends inside of this church community. But some of the people that come to mind are Jim and Patty White, Ben and Brooke Broadbent Bell, Ellie and Bruce Coriel, Marty Booth, and my whole dream group. I've been a part of a dream group for 30 years with women in this church. And Nancy Henjum and Steve Kern and Siri and Ralph Everett and Del and Pete Hokinson and Kelly and GL Scarborough, along with so many others who all remain like huge important friends in my life today. And lots of new friends too. So it's like this ongoing amazing process.
Yes. And you met all of those great friends early on when you were here?
Yep.
That's great.
Yep.
That's awesome. Yeah. So what would you say that you most value about this church?
Again, huge, value so much, love it so much. But two things come to mind. One is I love the way we are two things at the same time, and they're not in tension with each other. One is tradition, and the other is innovation and the fresh, breath of God alive in us. And so we have this beautiful space, and we have this amazing kick-ass organ music, and we sing, like ancient choral things while we simultaneously invite the fresh and the new and experiment and fool around and try new things and create. And I think that's really magnificent.
Yes.
And it's part of why we're healthy and part of why we're, kind of growing and strong. And that leads to the other thing that I love, which is this community of people, of fellow, journeyers in a wide open, progressive, what does it mean to be a Christian? Like, what does it mean to be God with skin on? And we all are, spiritual, people in our own right, in our own lives individually, right?
Yes.
But I love the power of when we come together collectively, what is possible because we are a community. And that's different from being alone with my God and my faith, or being alone walking in the woods. Those are wonderful things, but there's something about the power of when we gather that is magic, and we come together. I mean, we grieve people, people have died, and we've celebrated the lives right there in the sanctuary, and little babies have been born, and my daughter was married on the sanctuary in an interfaith wedding. I mean, just like all of the what's possible, we share together as community. I love that.
It's huge.
It's big.
Yes.
It's big.
Yes, that's great. That's great. So I know you've talked a little bit about memories, but what is one of your most favorite memories that has taken place here?
Well, one memory didn't take place here, but it's about here.
Oh.
And that is, after we had been here in members a couple years, we actually moved back to Minnesota for a couple years. And then we all missed Colorado, and we were moving back to Colorado. But Ben's job, it looked like we would be living in Montrose, Colorado. And so there we were looking for a house. And our son, Patrick, who was about 11 at the time, said, we were in Montrose, and he said, can we go to our same church if we live here?
Oh.
And I said, oh, no, honey, kind of far, too far, maybe for a special occasion, but no.
Yeah.
And he said, well, how far is it? And I said, it's about 5 hours. And he said, I would drive 5 hours to go to that church.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic.
So that's something.
All right, and now we have Ben here to join you. So, Hi, I'm Cynthia Riley, and I'm here with Ben and Lynn Young, and Lynn has answered a few of our questions, but I want to ask you some questions, Ben.
Very good.
Thank you so much for being here. So what are your first memories of First Congregational United Church of Christ here in Colorado Springs?
I think our first introduction to the church was actually, I think it was the Christmas parade. And we saw a float from the church going by. And looked like a lot of fun. And then I heard, I think it was a radio ad that said, "We're not afraid of the L word." And at that time, I wasn't sure if that was liberal or something else. You never know.
Right.
But that piqued my interest as well. And came to church, actually just, I kind of fell in love with it pretty quickly, which is kind of amazing for me. I was, raised as Mormon and had kind of not a good childhood in the Mormon church, and was somewhat skeptical of churches. But this one just really took me.
So it was a huge change for you.
Absolutely.
That's wonderful. Wow. So I think you've kind of answered it, but why did you become a member of this church then?
Well, I became a member because it was a place I wanted to belong to. It's, I felt like this was, the closest thing I found to a religious setting that I actually could accept. And I just really enjoyed it. I love the people here. Love Jim White. And this was a special place.
Right. Could you share a memory about some of your early times here in the church? Any of your experiences with groups, small groups or committees or anything like that?
Sure. This would be back in the mid to later 90s. For me, I was on the board here. I was director of Christian Ed. And so I had several committees under me.
I see.
And did quite a bit of work with community, what was it?
Community life. It was
community life, thank you. I was going to say community affairs. But yes, no, that was a great experience. I love the people I worked with, and it was an interesting time to be on the board. That was when we did the full participation statement in the church. And that was to allow anybody, regardless of sexual orientation, to have full rights in the church and to be able to marry and do things like that. So, very interesting time to be there.
Absolutely. And that was, I think, what we call open and affirming now?
Yes.
Okay.
They were actually two different things.
I see.
We first had the vote to do the full participation. That was a congregational vote for that.
I see.
And then Ruth Koenig-Salmon, had suggested that we apply to be an open and affirming church after that.
Oh, okay.
And so they happened very close to each other.
That must have been a very exciting time for the church.
It was an interesting time.
Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Oh, it was, there was certainly a split in the church around whether the full participation statement should go through or not.
Right.
And once it did pass, we lost some members of the church that I knew very well, and lost a friend or two in that episode. But
But you felt it was the right thing.
Oh, it was absolutely the right thing to do. And you know, within a couple of years, we were so much more of a healthy church, and we just grew, and more families. It was exactly the right thing to do.
Yes. Yes, I've heard about those times being challenging, that some people didn't want this change.
That's right. There was some fear that we were just moving too quickly, or something like that. But it was the right thing to do.
So who do you remember as friends in the early days of your membership here?
Sure.
That's been a long time.
It's been a long time. Ruth and Frank Koenig-Salmon, Lynn Boudreau, and
Betty Lynn?
Betty Lynn. Yeah, sorry, my memory for names is horrible
That's
right
all
now.
right.
It's getting worse.
That's
actually.
all right. You're doing fine.
Yes, okay. And then, Siri and Everett Ralph, or Siri and Everett.
Siri and Ralph Everett.
Siri and Ralph,
Ralph Everett, of course.
Gosh, all right. All right, I've said enough on names. Thank you, dear.
You are not the only one who's challenged by names.
Yes, okay.
So you made friends here then. You found friends.
Oh yes.
That's
yes,
wonderful.
we used to say this is where we found our liberal friends in Colorado Springs.
Yes.
When we moved here,
absolutely.
It seemed very conservative in Colorado Springs at the time.
Oh yes. Yeah, right. So what do you value most about this church and community?
Oh boy, lots of ways to answer that. I think it's the community itself that I value the most. I love the church services and the message that you get, from Jim White and then Broadbent. And unfortunately, I haven't been able to be here during church services since about 2011. I have a back that just can't sit in the pews.
I see.
Anymore. But that was wonderful. But yeah, it's the community as a whole. It's just there are some very neat, very diverse people here.
Yeah.
And it's great to be a part of that.
So share with us a favorite memory that you have of the church, or two if you'd like to share too.
Well, I have to say my daughter's wedding. It's one of my favorites, and that was almost.
It was 10 years.
10 years ago. Okay, in April. Gorgeous ceremony. Ben Broadbent, and we had a rabbi also. I don't remember his name, because it was my daughter was marrying a Jewish man, and so we had a mixed ceremony, which just turned out to be beautiful. And that this church just was absolutely open to that, and I know some churches that would have absolutely not done that.
For sure.
So this is one of the many reasons I love this church.
Absolutely. Any other memories that you have?
Oh, well, I'm going to skip the full participation statement for now because those got heated at times. The support I got when I had some health problems from the church was pretty amazing. I've had lots of issues with my back and some other serious medical issues that church has been very supportive of, and we've been brought dinners and things like that, and just kind of amazing.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful to hear. All right, now let's see. This is switching over to what kind of advice would you give our community, our church, for the years coming up?
You want to go first?
You want it?
Oh, okay, I'll take it. Sure. Stay open. Love justice. Be open and affirming in all ways that you can be, and accept others as they come.
That's right. Thank you.
Well, we are kind of joined at the hip.
We are. Yes.
I was going to say, like wide open, like fling the doors wide open. Be brave, be bold, be a voice in the public square, collectively stand up and create change for peace and justice in the environment, and all the, back in the day Jim White said, we're God with skin on, and so we are
that.
And that's really powerful, and so we are the love in action, and so that beacon on the corner, I'm sure 150 years from now our church will be here, and it will be the beacon on the corner of St. Vrain and Tejon that is like light and welcome and justice and like stuff's going on, like it's alive. Be alive, be risking, be courageous, greatly of service to all who might need it. and that in so doing we become, we become better, we become fuller, we become more truly what we're here for.
Absolutely.
Passionate people of God.
Yes.
Like me that.
For sure. Are there any other memories or thoughts you'd like to share about our congregation, or suggestions you have? Just any other thoughts you'd like to share about anything about FCUCC?
I'm going to let you go first.
Okay, I have one idea for you.
Oh.
But, I don't want to,
Right.
make it public. But I'll just say it involves Saturday morning, so you can think about that.
Oh, yes,
okay.
yes.
So what I would like to say, is we are currently not members of the seven pillars. We in terms of donating and contributing, we haven't really talked about that, but I think it's really important. One of the things is I co-chaired a capital campaign, like our own giving to the church financially is a huge part of our life, and we have it teed up in that little basket on the kitchen table, like become part of the seven pillars and put the church in our will, and we're meeting with a lawyer, and that will be coming, and that is
that's
the primary
on the horizon for you
beneficiary of our estate in our will. So I just wanted to name that, maybe publicly, but that I invite others to do that as well. That feels really, really good, and really, really good as a place to let our living and giving live on in a values-aligned kind of a way.
Oh, I really love that.
Right, exactly. So that is coming. I'll say that for right now, and then I'll see if I have more thoughts. But did you have one?
Well, Saturday morning, I had already thought of that.
Yeah.
Yes. The church was good enough to allow me to start a Gamblers Anonymous group here back in, I think it was 2001 when we started it. And that meets in the dwelling place every Saturday morning. And that has helped hundreds and hundreds of people who are literally suicidal when they walk in the door. And have problems that are just overwhelming them. And that is such a public service. I think the group wrote a letter once to the church just to thank them after like 10 or 15 years, to say, here's what you've done. But that's ongoing. And
yes, I always notice it in the bulletin, but I don't hear much about it.
Yes.
So that's great to hear that you started that group.
Yes, I started it, and we have a very dynamic membership going.
That's wonderful. Fantastic.
So keep that going.
Yes,
absolutely. That welcome, that was another of the thoughts that I had, which is the way in which we create welcome. And one example for me was the founding of the Out Loud Gay Men's Chorus, or Men's Chorus, primarily gay, which is a very courageous thing when it happened in our town. And it started here, and our church was the host. And I was at the very first public concert, which was like a true happening in our community, where honestly, fire code totally blown up. I think there were 800
That's what I've heard.
Like, sitting on the floor, publicly supporting and witnessing this opportunity for all people, especially at that time gay men, but really all people to be who they are and sing and be supported. That welcome is huge, and it actually ties to another memory that I have, which is, and I was looking online to see if I could check this, but the Colorado Springs, which was known as the epicenter of the hate, we became the hate state, but first it started here in our town, and in fact, it was right here, even in this church, and so.
We didn't start it.
No, we didn't. We didn't start it, but we actually did one Sunday invite one of the founding members of the movement to come into our church to join us. Jim White preached. We all had a kind of a listening session in the library afterwards. He was invited. It was really quite something.
Yep.
It was elevated. I remember he said, when your minister preached about hospitality today for all people, he was possessed by a demon from hell.
Yes, I
Oh
do
my
remember
Really
that.
and truly.
goodness.
So,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that happened.
Oh, yeah.
But also
wow.
then Colorado Springs hosted its first Pride Parade.
Yes.
And our church was the largest contingent, and we marched in
Yes, we were.
the very first Pride Parade here in Colorado Springs, and I believe have marched in every since, and I believe have been the largest contingent marching in every parade from then until now, which is huge. And it's another just like example of the welcome.
Yes.
And the
that's just
standing up
awesome.
and with and for and being an ally and being an accomplice and, being up to love good.
Yes, that's something to be so happy about, so proud about, that our church entered into all these different avenues of outreach and speaking out.
In real time, in the community
In
as
real
the need
time.
arose.
Right.
Is there anything else you'd like to share? This is your chance. Well, you've been wonderful.
I have one thing.
All right.
I
go
just
for
want
it.
to, I think it's in my words or language, but I just want to say how much I love this church. I really love this church. It is our home. Our family is far away. It is. There was at one point where it was like, we needed to dedicate a safe space, like, you know what I mean, like in a terrorist attack or whatever. I don't remember even the circumstances. Like, where would you meet if,
Right.
if something happened? And we both agreed, well, we'd meet at the church. That's where we would find each other, and it's where we have found ourselves and our friends. And so I just want to express my gratitude for this place.
Oh, I actually have one quick story, if that's all right.
That's all right.
So our two children loved this church as well, and we moved away to Minnesota back in 90.
3.
90, no, it was
Yeah.
91, I think. Well, yeah, maybe 93, okay. And then moved back in 95.
That's right.
I had a job with a company that was
Oh,
going
I
to be
told
in
this story.
Montreal. Oh, did you already tell it?
Yeah.
Oh, never mind.
Such a powerful
tell
Oh, yes.
story.
Oh, yes.
And your son wanted to drive 5 hours
to go to the
attend
same
his
church. Yes.
That is just such a dear story. Oh, that really touches my heart. Well, thank you very, very much for talking with us. This has been just awesome.
Thanks for the
Thank
opportunity.
you.
Thank you.